Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another MedFit Education Foundation webinar. We are very happy to have you with us today. Very exciting with old friend Dr. Melissa Petersen today. The topic is longevity, living at every age. Very excited for this. Dr. Petersen is back again. Yes, excellent. How are you? First of all, let's ask you that.
So good. So happy to be back. Excited to share this time with all of our attendees today that are live and to everybody that's going to get to watch this after the fact. We are going to just drop so much yumminess today. So I'm really excited.
Awesome. For those of you that don't know, Dr. Petersen is the founder of the Human Longevity Institute. She's a best-selling author. She's a podcaster. She's on our board. She's a course author for us, and she's just fantastic. And as always, it's always great to have her with us. So please, best attention given here, and I'm going to let you take it away, Dr. Petersen.
All right, gang, so it's always how effortlessly I can do this and make things work and get us into the actual presentation. Great, so now I at least know this. I have some amazing experts in the house, and I'm sure I've got some enthusiasts also because, you know, for any of us that are leading in this health, fitness, wellness space, we have to first take care of self first, right? We have to lead the way by practicing what we preach. So this is still going to be very personally applicable to anybody watching today. And I'm really glad you guys are here. So if we haven't got to meet yet, thanks again for being here. I'm Dr. Melissa Petersen. I am the founder of the Human Longevity Institute, and I have been in this field of integrative health and fitness. Literally fitness, I started in 6th grade. Started dancing when I was 2 years old. I was a personal trainer by the time I was 19. I was a nutritionist by the time I was 19. I got my doctorate in chiropractic by the time I was 24. And I have gone on and on and on. And now at 51, I have many other certifications, licensures, and degrees. I've never stopped. I've continued to add. And really, everything builds in our toolbox, right? Everything builds over time, and the more that we stay with it, the more that we hone our craft, the more that our patients, our clients, they come to us and they let us know what becomes important to them. And there's a really interesting thing happening right now out in the world. There's many interesting things that are happening out in the world, but one thing that is undeniable is that the population is shifting globally. And like it or not, we are all living longer, not necessarily better. And the fastest rising demographic is over 50 years old. So as professionals, that means there's a real need to understand how we are living, how we are caring for ourselves and our health and our well-being, and what's available and how we can begin to think about all this differently. Because I'm going to tell you, I believe the way that we view aging, health, longevity is completely wrong. It's very limiting, and it creates more of what we don't want. So today we're going to challenge our own limiting beliefs. We're going to understand how to get more of what we do want and how to actually age in reverse. Everything I'm going to share is validated in the research. So this is not just, you know, me sharing my ideas. This is everything that's been vetted. We've used it with clients. We know that it works, and we're going to share it today with you. So again, I apologize. My screen looks chaotic to me, but I'm hoping you guys can see the slides, and I think Brian's made the slides available. So I want you guys, this is the next point where I would like you to engage in the chat. I want you to type out, give me a little description of what does age mean to you? What does the idea of aging mean to you? What does it bring up in your mind, right? And as you think about, well, what does aging really mean? I want you next to tell me, and this is the big number, drop it in the chat. How long do you want to live? Tell me. Give me that number.
Really quick,
what is it?
Really quick, Dr. Petersen. There doesn't seem to be a chat on their end, so I might have made a mistake there. So go ahead and type it in the questions box, and we'll find it. I've got some updates for you on people's professions and things like that if you want to hear that. But go ahead and type whatever you like.
Yeah, let's take a minute. So you guys type in the chat. Give me in the questions. Tell me how long you want to live. What scares you about aging, what excites you. So answer any and all those questions. And as you're taking a minute to fill in the question, Brian, go ahead and read off some of the things that you've got for me, if you don't mind.
Will do. We've got a trainer. We've got a personal trainer, group class instructor. We've got a comprehensively trained certified Pilates instructor, personal trainer, medical exercise specialist, cancer exercise specialist. We have a dentist. Which is awesome. We have a boutique fitness owner out of Los Angeles, personal trainers, and now we're getting into some of the ages. So that's what we have for
Let's
you
hear
so
those
far.
numbers. Fire them at me, folks. What do we got? What do we got, Brian?
Okay, 100 plus. I want, this isn't a number, but I want a health span to match my lifespan. Over 95, 96, and aging is a state of mind. Nothing's scaring. Okay, 100 years and 105, slowly losing abilities, i.e. grip strength. Okay, so
Great.
got a few options
Beautiful.
here.
I love it. So we've got some good mindsets in here, which is already really great. I'm going to encourage you guys to ask this to your clients. And it's a really interesting thing when we start to realize, because I'm with you, right? This is what we want. We know it's possible. We feel it. And yet it was very interesting today. I was putting together some marketing materials, and I typed in an image I was looking for. Fit 50-year-old. I was looking for a 50-year-old, right? Images of 50-year-olds. And all they showed me were pictures of people doing bent over, like in pain. I was like, this is some BS. However, here's the reality. If you really think about, if you really go out, and I'm telling you, I'm in the optimization lane, you guys. I look all the time. I'm always pulling material for my students, for our businesses, for our doctors, for all the things, and to find some really a collection of great, healthy, vital, ripped, strong, high performing individuals over the chronological age of 50, you're really hard pressed. It's very limited, which is very telling about the messages that we are being marketed, how we are being told to think about the aging process. And it's important for us to know that, because people come to us with this, whether it's conscious or not. Like consciously, I want to live to this big number, but what does it really mean to me, aging? Like when I look around, what's my family doing? You know, how well are they aging? When I look at the other people in my same chronological age category, how are we stacking up? Are they like faster, slower? Are they talking to me all the time about their conditions, their diagnoses, their problems? Or are they talking about like really creating a long, vital life? And so it's important to realize that so much of this is unconscious. It's just in the media, it's all around us. And the more that you guys can appreciate that that does not have to be our reality, and that we as providers especially, it begins with us in knowing the information and how we shift it, then you can start to really open up new potential for your clients. But let me give you this really quick formula, because this is a great way to help people have a relatable way to think about their health potential. So we call this your longevity potential. So I want you to write down the age, or think about the age of your oldest living relative. So for me, that was my great grandmother. She was 95. And then you're going to put in your current age. For me, that's 51. So I'm going to subtract 51 from 95. And the difference I get, what's that? 43, right? And so that's my longevity potential. Now, I plan to live a lot longer than 43 years. However, there's a good likelihood that if I do take care of myself, I could live 43 more years. Some people that excites, others that terrifies, because depending on wherever a person is in this moment, where they're at right now, if it's like, oh crap, I feel like crap, I couldn't imagine doing this 43 more years. Or like, oh my God, for me, I'm like, I feel amazing. I feel like I'm just getting started. I feel like a freaking teenager. I'm like, 43 is not enough. I want so much more. Give me 83, right? Give me 80, like I want another 100. Like I want more, because I'm just loving life so much. And it's really important to have a place to just, it's what I call shaking the dirt off the roots, right? How do we shake the dirt off the roots of where we're at, of what we believe, to create an opportunity for more potential or possibility to come in? And so what we're going to talk about today, because you guys already know it, like what if there is, and these are questions you can ask your clients, right? If all of a sudden they're kind of stuck and they like, I want it to be this way, but I think it's that way, or like, I don't know if I really want to live a long time, like I'm just feeling so crappy now, which is a wide majority of today's population, because they haven't been given the opportunity to think about this in a more expansive and positive light. So what if you could live better, stronger, healthier, longer? Would you want to? These are questions we can ask our clients. We can ask ourselves. What if you could look, feel, and perform at your peak into your 80s, 90s, and well beyond? Would you want to? Heck yeah, right? And what if aging did not have to mean inevitable? decline. Because again, that's the story that we're sold and told in today's current marketplace. But the good news is that it doesn't have to be inevitable decline. The science of longevity absolutely has verified that we know why we age, and we know that this is a process that can be slowed down, stopped, and new breakthroughs are coming every day about even how to fully reverse the process. So we go deep in this in the course. Like, we have kind of the level 1 course here inside of MedFit in the specialist classroom. I've got a full certification program that does a deep dive for practitioners at my institute. So today we're just going to hit the high notes so you can leave here with a validation to things you already know, insight to areas to create greater excitement of where you want to go. But here's the good news: there's a great new path forward. And again, it's all steeped in the science. So the place that we have to start is first delineating chronological versus biological age. Okay, so we've all come to think of age and aging as the number that's associated with how many candles are on the birthday cake. That's our chronological age, the time that's elapsed since birth. And we think of that in a very linear way, right? From A to B to C to D. Well, here's the deal. The human body, the physiological processes, how we express healing, health, thriving, performance, well-being is not linear. This is a complex biodynamic human system. We formed from one cell into multiple cells, into tissues, into organs, into systems, into one large complex human system of trillions of cells. And so what that means is all these different tissues and organs and systems, they all are alive and metabolically active and functioning. And the moment that we are conceived, we actually begin to age. We begin to have these metabolic processes that require us to make energy, use energy, build things up, and then the things that tear down to remove the waste. It's this beautiful building, growth, and then recycling and repair, rejuvenation process that goes on throughout life. And it requires some basic things. We got to have the right tool to do the right job. As we chronologically age, we have less and less of the right tools. We overload our systems in too many ways. And so from a biological aging process, our tissues are metabolically active at different rates and pace. And it is this biological, what's happening inside at the cellular level, is either speeding up or slowing down how fast or how well our tissue is able to handle the demands from life. And this is what really accounts for the fact why two people can both be 45 and one looks 55 or 60 and the other looks 35 or 30. And their energy is different, their symptomatology is different, their cognitive function is different, their vitality is different, how they approach life is different. And it's not just good genes at all. And we talk a lot about this in the course. DNA, there's a big part of it that does come into play, but it's really all about the epigenetics, what's signaling. So biological age is driven in large part, as we know from the research, 75 to 90% of it by lifestyle, by this container that we all live in called the exposome, that's filled with all of these inputs throughout our life, conscious and unconscious, from the air we breathe, the food we eat, the exercise that we do, the relationships we're in, the type of light that we're taking in, the toxins we're breathing, the fabrics we're wearing, all of it. So we know that this system of trillions of cells has a biological aging process, and this is what the science of longevity is built on. And it was back around 2013 that, all the top minds, listen, longevity and is there a fountain of youth? Like, do we really have to age? This question has been poked and prodded and looked at for millennia, for so long. And really in the last 25, 35 years, the research, the technology started to show up, started to quicken the pace, started to allow some of the top schools and research and scientific departments and companies around the globe to really get deeper into this process and say, no, wait, really, can it though? What causes us to age and do we have to? And so by 2013, it was pretty decided on that, look, there isn't just one path in. There's at least 9 fundamental paths that all impact the different tissues and systems of the body down to the cellular and genetic level. And while we're not going to go into each of these today, we do that inside of the course. What is important to know is that these 9 different hallmarks of aging all are explaining what's happening at a physiological level, and there is one central byproduct when we start to break down. When we start to have chronic aging, this is this breakdown with this metabolic waste left over that starts to have this inflammation process, and we're just not cleaning it up, we're not getting rid of it as much, so it kind of starts to build. And again, there's a lot into this. I'm really simplifying it for time and brevity today. But what you need to take away that's really relevant and important today is that what's so fascinating and beautiful about the longevity industry is they're going, okay, wait a minute. We have all, in the scientific community, in the health industry, for years we've been labeling things and giving them diagnosis codes and disease processy names. And we've been finding these ways to treat these diseases. Yet, if we understand what's happening in these disease processes, it overlays what's happening in these hallmark of aging processes. And both the diseases and the hallmarks all have one core root expression. It is this inflammaging process. And so the scientific community is like, wait a minute, maybe diseases are secondary, not primary. Could diseases that we think we're treating, could those actually be secondary to biological aging? Could those be the byproduct of this inflammaging process? And this is what is the root centralizing, unifying factor that is going to literally transform healthcare over the next decade and beyond. Because we're starting to realize, wait, and yeah, there's a lot of money in the management and treatment of disease. And I'm not saying that disease doesn't exist. Please let me be very clear. Hear what I'm saying. We've been looking at beating the drum of the problem like it's a disease, but is the disease the actual expression, the symptom of aging? Is aging this faster pace what we really need to better understand, because this tells us about how the body as a whole is working. And if we understand these hallmarks, if we understand these inroads, then we begin, the moment we know the problem, we understand the solution. And what we also know, like I was saying, is that we realize that 75 to 90% of what is speeding up, impairing, impacting these hallmarks of aging, these inroads into the body that's amplifying this inflammaging process, are lifestyle driven. So that's super empowering, right? Meaning the choices we make today can impact our tomorrows. They literally can redefine how we are experiencing and expressing our health, our human potential, our well-being. And the images that we have seen, like, we didn't have this information 20, 30 years ago. Our parents didn't have it, our grandparents didn't have it. So the ways that we've seen people age before us, it's not that it was their fault. They just had, like, they were just living. They didn't have the internet. They didn't have a lot of resources at their hands. They were doing their best and living a good life of what they told a life was, that meant it was well. And, you know, it's kind of like, hey, it's the rise and fall, inevitable decline. Yes, we are all going to transition from this body at some point in some time. Yet, we don't have to keep thinking of it as this very short window. It's doom and gloom. We got maybe 50 good years in us and then it's over. That's not it at all. We can extend that out. And now with precision longevity, we understand how everything is rooted in lifestyle. But what's really exciting, especially for my practitioners out there, and you know, what becomes really exciting is how you go from lifestyle, and we teach all of this, how you begin to stack and how you begin to advance up into these really beautiful molecules, regenerative therapies, treatments. Like, there's so much. It's all rooted in lifestyle first. We don't pass go, we don't collect $200. A beautiful regenerative treatment, some fascinating peptides and exosomes, is not going to all of a sudden correct for the imbalance that's still underlying and still creating that inflammaging. So it's this beautiful process. And what I love about longevity, it's truly literally the unification point of lifestyle and the most advanced integrative science, technology, and healthcare out there. It's just the beautiful unification of, you know, all this really cool advanced science and these ancient teachings and principles, all wrapped in modern solutions. And this should be really exciting to you guys, especially all of you out there, boots on the grounds, doing the stuff every day, taking people through the workouts, building their nutrition plans, working with them to really understand. But what's great about longevity, it becomes a new conversation that's empowering versus just a conversation of, well, we're going to keep treating that disease. How's your diabetes doing today? What I love about what we do at the Human Longevity Institute is my coaches don't treat disease, period. That's practicing medicine without a license. We focus specifically on biological aging. That's it. We focus on what's available to what's going to either speed that up, because we know if it's speeding up, we're increasing the rate and the speed of dysfunction, breakdown, and disease. Fast path, all-cause mortality. It's all in the literature, not making it up, it's out there. Yet, if we understand what speeds it up, we also can understand what can slow it down. And if we become masters at slowing down that rate and pace of biological aging, then guess what? By default, we're also slowing down, and we are improving the healing process, the body's ability to negate or completely avoid, if you will, prevent, I think that's a better word, supersede, even needing to become a diagnosis or a disease. And if they've already got an active disease state or diagnoses, then this is going to work with the body, not to treat something that is active, but to go ahead and support the body in its most innate ways, to understand how to bring it out of distress, how to bring it out of allostatic overload and back into states of homeostasis, allostasis, health, and thriving. I love this stuff. I get a little preachy, you guys. I apologize. Let's get into what you can do about it. Okay, so you've got a little container, you got a little context to know. Here's the good news. Regardless of what we know, what we think we know, regardless of how our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents have been before us, their truth does not need to be ours. We now have so much more available to us with science, with technology, with ancient teachings, principles, and wisdom, and we get to bring it all together in this beautiful way called longevity, to have a new way to have conversations, to approach client and patient care, to build programs and protocols that are measurable, that we can literally measure this rate and pace of biological aging so that we can show how we are slowing it down and even reversing it. But let me give you guys 4 ways that we know in the literature that have been found to slow down this rate and pace of biological aging. Mind, meaning, measurement, movement. What do I mean by this? All right. How many of y'all have heard the saying that what you perceive, you conceive? So our perception of life, this is a really powerful thing. We must start with the mind, because this is going to inform how any client ever experiences their programs with you, their care with you. It's going to tell you a lot about how they are approaching their life and what they believe is possible for them. So our perceptions, which many of them are laid in at a time we're little babies, 0 to 6, like everything's just pouring in very unconsciously. It's culturally driven, right? It's informed by our parents and our siblings and the world around us, the things that we're seeing and we're learning. And we're going, oh, A plus B equals C. This plus this is good, or this plus this means danger. So we start to learn and we start to perceive things and we start to make connections. Now, doesn't mean that it's necessarily true for us, but this is kind of how the process works, how the brain gets us going and gets us out into the world. So our perceptions drive our reality. It informs our psychology, and our psychology influences our physiology. And so again, there's so much research on this, you guys. However, let's keep it in context of longevity. So one of the most significant studies to date out there was a 2-decade-long research project. This was conducted by Dr. Levy. She is one of the leaders in longevity research, and she has been around for literally about 25, 30 years in this field doing deep research. She and her team wanted to really question, to say, does our perception of age influence actually how long and how well people live? If we think aging's good, does it let us live longer? If we think aging's bad, does it make us live shorter, right? And the data was super clear. I mean, she wrote a whole book about this, by the way, but here's the cliff notes for you. Individuals with a more positive self-perception of aging. What does that mean? Oh man, with age comes wisdom, right? With age comes authority. I just love, I'm so excited. I look forward to being older and just really saging over time, like a fine wine. Okay, there's that. that versus the less positive self-perception. Aging, getting older is a burden. Getting older, you just break down. You got more problems, you got more aches, you got more pains. How many of you heard, aging's a bitch? It sucks to get old. I mean, I cannot tell you how often I hear that from people in their 50s. I'm like, are you kidding me? However, think about it. How many times have you heard that? Because that's kind of the excuse that's been given. You go into most traditional healthcare practices, oh, you're just getting older. Yeah, that's just what it is. You just got to deal with it. That's absolutely nonsense, by the way. Another conversation for another time. However, people are just repeating. So I don't blame anybody. I'm not like, how dare they say this stuff? If we don't know better, we can't do better and be better, right? So it's important to look at the data. It's important to look at the research. It's important to continue to grow ourselves and stretch ourselves and place ourselves around others that maybe know more than we do, that have more experience than we do, or have a different perception than we do. It doesn't all have to be matched up, but it gives us the opportunity to look through different lenses and simply consider things in new ways. So here's what was found. It's right there. You guys have probably already read the slide, but this is really impactful. That those with a positive self-perception of aging is all about getting wiser and like, just, I love it. I cannot wait. I'm saging. It's beautiful. Lived 7.5 years longer than those with a less positive outlook. And here's the really big thing. Not only did they live longer, they lived better. They had fewer sicknesses, diagnoses, disease, fewer aches, pains, symptomatology. And this advantage, this is really important, you guys. This remained after age, gender, socioeconomic status, loneliness, functional health were all included as covariants. So that means it was all about perception. It was stronger than any of those other things, okay? That mattered the most. 7.5 years right there. You wanna live for those that are like 100 plus, baby? Yeah, like begin to really appreciate how do you perceive aging. And when you hear yourself talk about longevity, living longer, like, do you ever find yourself buying into the biases that are already out there unconsciously, of course, because I know you guys are like, heck yeah, I'm in this, this is like my truth. And yet, what is unconscious? Just begin to notice. I want you to get curious about that, because here's the deal. In order to continue to upgrade our perception, to create more and more of what we do want, then we need to create this longevity mind shift, and the brain needs proof. So if all we are shown are these images, like I was telling you about earlier, the 50-year-old, and it's just what it is, sucks to get old. If that's what we keep hearing, whether it's in marketing, whether it's right from the people we're working with, then our mind unconsciously keeps saying like, well, that's kind of that's what it is. So I want you to challenge yourself. I want to invite you to challenge yourself to begin to consider what living a healthy, long life could mean for you. So those of you that said, hey, I want to make it to 100, and then I gave you your longevity potential, right? So maybe you got 40 more years, 50 more years, 60 more years left in you, 80 more years. I don't know where you all's chronological age is at in this moment. I will tell you what we know in the literature at this moment, just the human physiology. At first, it was thought the upward limits of how long it was possible to live without any interventions, right? Without any kind of all the good fiber bionics and all the fun things, was about 120. That's now been found to be closer to 150. So as humans in this moment, we have the potential to make it to 150. We're actively trying to upgrade, right? And we're looking for these other levers and ways to help us do that more intentionally. And yet, many of us were like 120, 150, like what would that even mean? So here's what I want to encourage you to do for yourself and or the clients that you work with. When you think about how you want to be at 100 or 120 or 150 for those of you that want to go even longer, I really want you to see yourself there. And imagine, like, ask yourself a few questions. Well, who's going to be with me, right? Who's going to be with me? You're going to have, hopefully, your family, your spouse, maybe your kids, your grandkids, great grandkids if we're at 120, right? Again, depending on what your life looks like now. What do you want to be doing? What do you want to be doing? How well do you want to be moving? And so it's one thing to be like, I want to do this thing. That's exciting, but now let's get practical and tactical. Like, we all know, especially those of you in fitness, that as we chronologically age, one of the things that sets in and impacts us all is what's called sarcopenia. We have this loss of muscle and muscle mass over time. So that means that translates that as we chronologically age, if we're not doing things intentionally to support a different outcome, there is a loss of function. So now all of a sudden, how do we want to be functioning at 120? Now, to get there, to still function the same way you're functioning today, is going to take intentionality, right? Very specific practices between now and then. So I just want you to consider that for yourself. If you know how you want to be then, you get greater insight to say, well, what would I need to be doing now? More of now, less of now, so that I can be doing all of that then. Okay, so seek out examples, seek out the research. Go find people that are living extraordinary lives in terms of their vitality, right? Like, again, we get overloaded with all the stuff that's not really uplifting and more of the like, well, this is just the way it is. Yet there are examples out there. There are exceptional human beings. There's amazing centenarians. There's so many people really living life on their own terms that are way outside of the fringes. In fact, you guys, I'm so excited. I'm like, he's my BFF, I swear to God. But for those of you who ever saw the Marvel movie Thor, and you haven't been living under a rock and you know who the actor Chris Hemsworth is, you know he's like the god of thunder, right? Well, guess what? He just did a movie with National Geographic. It's coming out on Disney called Limitless. And it's a whole deep dive into longevity. And what I love is he's doing exactly what we do at the Human Longevity Institute, which is we are really expanding the field of possibility. We want to invite people to see more that is possible for themselves, to realize that we don't have to keep just settling for what has been, and that we can shift things within our own body and our own mind. So that's an example, right? Seeing examples of what more could be possible. The more we know better, the more we do better. All right, so now let's talk about meaning for longevity. Meaning and purpose matters. The research is abound with conclusive evidence that a sense of purpose both extends lifespan and health span. People who have high levels of purpose in life spend fewer nights in hospitals, they have lower odds of developing diabetes, and they're over 2 times lower in risk of dying from heart conditions than do the others. This is pretty impactful. So I know you guys that are here today because I asked. Many of you that are watching this are already healthpreneurs in one way, shape, or form. You're practitioners, you're coaches, you're instructors. Like, you are already in your own communities. You're already standing up and you're leading. So I know that you show up every day on purpose with purpose. Yet your clients may not be, right? They may be struggling. And if you ask this in your paperwork, this is something I ask in my paperwork all the time. You would be amazed how many people who have chronic health conditions are feeling like they don't know what their purpose is. Like, they don't know if they matter. They feel like they've given their life to something or to somebody else and they kind of lost themselves along the way. They're questioning a lot of things because they just don't know how to give themselves permission to just say, I matter. Like, it doesn't have to be about something external. Like, the very mere fact that I'm alive means that I have purpose. I'm here for a reason. Doesn't mean that it has to be a title or a degree. It's like, I'm here to breathe the air today. I'm here to be a human. I'm here to experience life. And that's good. So how do I want to be experiencing life? How fully, how vitally? What matters? Me, the more energized, the more vital I am, the more I can show up and share this with others. So that's like kind of step number 1. But if we want to take it to a higher level, to find your why, right? To find that reason for being, that motivation, that momentum to get up, to get out, to get curious, to look beyond whatever the 4 walls of our life might be. It's important to tap in and talk with your clients about what brings them joy. So for those of you, I've got a lot of trainers on today while you're working out. It's not like, oh, did you see what was on Netflix last night? Or, oh, how's it going, John? Damn boss, like, I'm just so stressed out. People are going to tell you all the things that are wrong, and it's okay. They need a place to vent. There's nothing wrong with that. But when, what we perceive, we conceive. When we focus on the problem, we get more of the problem. The problem and the solution are in 2 totally different places. So it's okay to give them a moment to be like, yeah, and go, great. You know what? So we're here today to work it out. Let's work that out. And as you're working it out, I want you to tell me about, tell me about some things that are going well for you right now, John. Tell me about some things that are just lighting you up, like you're really digging, you're into, that's like evoking massive just interest or curiosity. And if you're working with women, you can use words like joy and happiness. I mean, use your words to fit your audience to who you're speaking. But just realize that even in a moment, you guys can find meaning and purpose in a moment, and you can help your clients to do the same. But we're never going to do it if we don't support one another and actually drive the conversation in a new direction forward. Okay, so things like what interests, excites, uplifts you, gets you out of bed, into your day. This is the meaning that matters. And the more that we can invite our clients back into realizing that for themselves, we all get lost in thinking it's this external thing and we got to punch the clock and we got to get the check, and it's about the stuff of life. But why do we want the stuff of life? Because typically we think that's going to bring us more joy and more opportunities to have the time with the people that we love, doing more of the things that we love. So we do all this stuff when really what we're wanting, thinking we need to amass stuff, we really want to amass more moments of love and connection, right? And so it's good to get the stuff. Great, get the stuff. But let's anchor into our meaning and purpose, because that's going to help to extend our life. And in the literature, this is about another 7-year extension, by the way. Of course, we're all here at MedFit today, grateful to be having this chat. So we know, you guys know movement is a part of it. And if I had to double down on the biggest bang for the buck to extend health span and lifespan, movement all day long. Now, I'm going to say something to my fitness experts out there, and you guys might go, Melissa, what in the world? You're going to be like, I can't believe you're saying this. Just hang in there. Most of the people aren't even moving. So I'm going to tell you that before we get all crazy about the types of workouts, step one is we need to just get people active. I've done polls on this again and again and again, and I ask people what the word exercise means to them. How do they feel when they hear that word? I don't know if you guys have ever done this with your clients. I don't know if you've ever even considered it with yourself. But the answers that I get every time, they're all negative perceptions. Like, oh, work, like, I get tons of that. I'm like, oh, it's like, I got to go to the gym. I got to work. I'm not happy. It's like, it's effort. It's another thing I've got to do. It's just like, it's not fun, but it's necessary. No pain, no gain. And I don't like how I'm looking. So I know it's something I should do. If you guys have never asked your people this, please do. It's very insightful. So even using the word exercise isn't very inspiring and motivating. And people will use, we are motivated by pain and pleasure. So a lot of people will come in and start something when they're in a lot of pain, right? Mental, emotional pain. I'm so sick of the way I look and how I feel, like I'm just so sick and tired of being sick and tired, I'll do it. I'll pay the money, I'll do the sessions. However, that's not long-term motivation and sustainability. And so if we cannot quickly get people tapped into something much bigger than the pain, something that really does matter, and start to understand themselves and their potential differently, they're not going to stick. They're not going to stick with the programs. They're not going to come back in and keep working with you. They're not going to honor themselves. And then they're going to feel like a failure. And then they're either going to blame you, hey, that thing that I did with so-and-so didn't work, or because it's too hard to take personal accountability, or it's going to be like, I did this thing again and it didn't work again. And so then they go back into just like, well, I'm not happy with it, but they settle. They resign themselves to thinking like, I guess it's just this. And nobody wants that. That's not a life lived long and well, is it? That's a fast track for disease and despair, dysfunction and breakdown. So I'm going to encourage you to first just realize that the data shows that we just want to get people active. And while yes, certain things say exercise for 150 minutes, I promise you, there's so much research around activity, simply moving our bodies in a more regular and consistent manner. If we are just even moving for 150 minutes a week, that already creates massive shifts in our system. Can we get more pronounced? Can we really target in on those workouts? Can we get into the zone 2 training? Can we do the HIIT? Can we do, yes. But there's even a lot of research on that. Like, you guys wouldn't believe how little we actually need to get all the longevity benefits. right? We need it, we need all of it, but here's what I want you to think about. Just start getting your people active. And the best form of activity, here we know, the benefit was seen regardless of weight, age, sex, and health condition, is moving 150 minutes, starting with brisk walking. Doubling down on these studies, big one by Mayo Clinic, we know that not just walking, so walking is super important. Like we know that's going to give us at least 7 years. You want to go upwards of 15, 16, 20 years. This study has been done number of times in different continents and countries. The pace and speed of our walking matters. So those people that walk about a 4 minute, I gotta say this right, 4 mile per hour walking speed, that's about 100 to 118 steps per minute. They have upwards of a 20-year life extension and lifespan health span, just by being a faster walker. That's it, nothing tricky. So can you get your people walking? Can you get yourself walking more? Can you just get yourself active a little more, right? In between the commercial breaks, of course, we're all streaming, so you know, you probably don't have commercial breaks anymore, but like, listen, here's one of my hacks. I'm at the gas station, I'm pumping gas. Guess what I'm doing while I'm pumping gas? I want to, you know what? Somebody drop, if I don't know what I have, I'm going to come up with a prize. So I'm not going to tell you what it is. Who's listening? Drop it in the questions. I'm going to give you all 90 seconds. Tell me what you think I do when I'm pumping gas, and I'll answer it in a minute. Brian, you're going to have to keep an eye on that and tell me here in a second. All right, so I love it. People are checking in. All right, so now our last one is measurement. So you would be amazed, maybe you guys aren't, of how many of us don't measure what's happening in our body. We have these desires of what we want. We think we're doing okay, but we don't really know what metrics to look at to know how well we are actually doing. And so we teach a lot over at my institute about the role of technology in practice and healthcare and what that means. But for today, I'm going to give you one of the simplest biomarkers that correlates with longevity, correlates with all-cause mortality, depending on where it's at. You want to know how to tell if your clients are in distress, allostatic overload, not recovering. So if you put them through a hard workout, they're only going to crash. It's going to be harder for them, and it's actually going to create more problem than good. You better be looking at their heart rate and their heart rate recovery. Okay, so simple way for any of us to know, am I good or is my system overloaded, is to look. You don't need any fancy tech. We all know how to do this. You know how to guide your clients to check your pulse, right? Finger to the carotid. Radial. 60 seconds, give it a check. Here's what we know. The data, the old research, like here's what's crazy. I can't stand these ranges. It's just like lab work. For any of you that do blood work, you know, what's normal is really abnormal. Again, another story for another time, but we do these big ranges, and these big ranges are built on population indexes. So we are measuring thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, and we kind of get this average range. It's the bell curve. And so what the literature has always said about heart rate is that, hey, 50 to 100 is considered normal. Well, that's a pretty big gap. Okay, but here's what we really know. A resting heart rate of pulse, 50 to 60, is optimal. That is your healthiest state. That is a body that is in allostasis. It is resilient, it's adaptive, it's responsive, it's handling the demands coming to it. It's well rested, it's able to take on more, it's not overloaded, it is in a really good, healthy state. What we know, and there's huge studies on this, that once we start to get over 60, and really kind of, there's a few different, the study's been done so many different times, depending on where you're looking at this. Some are gonna tell you 62, some say 60, some say 64. So 60 to 65, we're still good, but this is where the tipping point occurs. That every beat per minute above, right? So 60, we go from 60 to 61, we increase our rate and risk of all-cause mortality by 3% every beat above 60. What does this mean? When we have a resting heart rate of 71 and higher, we have more than a 51% increased rate and risk of all-cause mortality, meaning we're going to die sooner of more things than people that don't have their heart rate that high. So we are at greater risk. When our resting heart rate is at 71 and higher consistently, consecutively, our system is in distress. And the more we keep throwing at it, physically, mentally, emotionally, chemically, environmentally, even those good workouts are going to crash the system, are going to actually take it into an accelerated rate of biological aging. So the funny thing is that when we start to do less heavy demands, and we let that body do what it was designed to do, which is to actually recover, then it can become more resilient, more adaptive, and we can actually take more on. But too many of us keep going and going and going when we haven't taken the time to recover. And so the systems chronically break down faster and faster. And that is why the 45-year-old can look 55 or 60, because they've got too many demands, stressors, physical, mental, emotional, chemical, environmental, electronic, all of it coming in. And they're not taking time to pump the brake. They're not taking time to rest and recover. They keep doing all the shoulds of life. Well, I should do this, and here's what's expected of me, and here's what I'm supposed to do because somebody told me this, and this is the new fad diet, and this is the new crazy workout, and this is, We have to know how to measure and understand what our body is telling us, because so many of us have cut off, right? We don't know how to interpret. We're so busy in our minds that we're not feeling into and understanding the cues coming from the body. And if we are listening to the body, you're like, I don't have time for that. Just give me my next monster. Give me my next Tylenol. Give me whatever I can have to override the innate wisdom and intelligence of the body, because I am certainly smarter than my body. And while, yes, I know you guys are brilliant, I know that your clients are brilliant, if we're not getting the results that we want, then it's okay to say, wait a minute, maybe I should actually work with my body instead of trying to override it always and force it. Maybe it's trying to tell me something that I need to just like pump the brake for a minute and tune in and look at some of my data and understand what my body is trying to share and show and reveal to me. So here's the deal, gang. Aging really is optional. And these are just super simple things. You would be amazed, however, to know that really, really slowing down and reversing aging, when I talk about lifestyle, what I share with my students all the time, so much of this, it seems so simple that you're like, it can't be that simple. And it's so funny that we dismiss simplicity. We would rather do something extreme thinking it's gotta be that. And we're missing, we have to crawl before we can walk and walk before we can run. And when a system is completely overloaded, we can't, we can't keep putting more on a bad foundation. It's never going to make it to 100, let alone 120 or 150. So begin to realize that, yes, you really can slow down and reverse biological aging. Nothing we can do with the numbers on the birthday cake, but those are to be celebrated, right? That's to be celebrated. So age really is just a number, but that number doesn't have any real meaning on the chronological on the birthday cake. That's just life wisdom, right? That's life experience. What's happening on the inside, biological aging, that's what really is correlating with how healthy, how well, how vibrant, how long we're going to be capable of being functional and enjoying this life, okay? So you can slow it down, and really just by using lifestyle and fitness before any interventions, you don't need all the extra stuff yet, okay? But we always want to pair lifestyle, and then we want to start to stack on interventions. We want to understand what interventions when, and you want to know how to be able to pair up, partner up, refer out when is possible, and really be a part of a really beautiful collective. Know that meaning matters, right? It creates that motivation. We all have to have our why. Our why is our drive. It's what gets us out of bed. It's what will determine if we just keep, we just keep settling for less, or we're ready to go and up level and go beyond where we've been. We're ready to stretch ourselves. We're ready to say yes to a bigger, bolder, even more energizing life. Movement matters, and you guys know this. I'm speaking to my tribe today, but be kind. Take time to get curious with your clients and see what they think about the words. What does it mean? Like, they don't want to disappoint you, and they're going to get in there, I'm going to show up, I'm going to like card, whatever. They're going to do what you ask them to do. And we all know we've had those great workouts that just kick our butt. And we're like, we leave it all on the floor and we're like, oh, and we're exhausted, but it's also amazing, right? Huge sense of accomplishment. I'm not saying that we don't want to call people into challenging workouts and to push themselves. Yet it's important to understand their perception, because perception drives their physiology and their experience. So if we want to make something sustainable, long term, we want people to have fun, we want them to continue to explore and try new things, we got to understand their perception. How are they viewing, not only how are they viewing aging, but how are they viewing exercise? How are they viewing the process? And so there's something called cognitive reappraisal. There's ways to simply just reframe and start to kind of flip to the opposite side of the same coin with how we're saying things, how we're doing things, and we can start to, as I said earlier, shake the dirt off the roots and give people a new expanded awareness that more could be possible. And we got to measure. We have to measure. I'm not talking about a number on a scale. That means very little. It really does. It is a biomarker, but weight, that is not the most important marker, especially when it comes to longevity. We want to look at heart rate. We want to look at heart rate variability. We want to look at heart rate recovery, right? We want to look at respiration and oxygen saturation. And yes, somebody said it earlier in the chat. We do want to move into those fitness markers. We want to look at grip strength. We want to look at walking speed. There's a lot of beautiful things that are very simple that give us a lot of insight into the body. So what can you do next? First, do the stuff for yourself. Start to get curious about your own mindset, about your own perceptions. Understand where you can expand them. Understand where you can start to surround yourself with new and exciting mentors and information and research. Continue to be that leader for those that you lead. Pour into yourself. Realize that you're not supposed to be, like, if you're the smartest in your circle, you got nowhere to grow. So you've got to continuously up level. Who else can I learn from? Who else can pour into me so that I may pour into others? Because we're all here to support one another collectively, right? And so we've got, again, my beginning course is here inside of MedFit. That's in the specialist classroom, the longevity, lifestyle, and fitness specialist. You guys can check that out. It's at a really great rate, and you guys, if you're members here, you get discounts on all that stuff. You don't get any live time with me. That's just pre-record. It's DIY. If you guys ever want to know more, you can come check me out at Human Longevity Institute. We do practitioner courses. We do really deep dives. You get a lot of time with me, a lot of time with my team. We go deep into protocols, all that. We're always connecting doctors and coaches. We have a whole network of how that goes. And so free resources are always at my website. So if you guys liked this today, you're curious about this, you want to keep learning more, check out my podcast, humanlongevityinstitute.com/podcast. So we're on Spotify and Amazon and all those places, or you can just reach out to me and my team. hello@humanlongevityinstitute.com. So those are some of the places you guys can get started. Tons of free resources. You don't have to pay us money, but if you want to, I think the MedFit classroom is one of the first places to get started, to go to your next step deeper. And now we got a little bit of time left together. So let's see if anybody, what were the guesses for what I do? And
all right, I'm back. Here we go. Drum roll. Let's see here. Answers. March in place, squats, lunges and squats, air squats, knee lifts and ham curls. That's a good one, all right. And that is lots of squats, lots of marching, lots of lunges and squats, jumping jacks as well.
I love it. Y'all are so good. First of all, everybody, like, I'm giving y'all a gift of love because you played and you participated. So know that you showed up. So I actually do a ton of calf raises. So I do calf raises if I'm just standing, like if I'm like kind of getting the thing in. I do squats and I do lunges. So those are my 3 top moves while I'm pumping gas. And that was all under movement, right? Like just activity, finding these little micro moments to just be like, hey, life is my playground. And just because I'm here doing this thing, is there a way I can move? Sometimes I'm just dancing at the gas pump because that's just me. Like that's just who I am.
You know what? I have to say, here in New Jersey, we don't pump our own gas. We have a tendency.
That's right. You guys still
there's
don't
only
pump
2
your own
states.
gas.
There's only 2 states. I believe it's us in New Jersey and Oregon. So you're just by getting out of the car, you're getting more movement than we are here in New Jersey. So well done, the other 48. And there's all sorts of ways. Brushing your teeth is another opportunity.
100%.
I have my runners and athletes, put their shoes and socks on standing up because we get some
Love
balance,
that. Just increasing mobility. That's so good, and balance.
and we get foot strength. And for, the athletes, this is very important, the foot and ankle complex and shin strength and all that stuff that, young athletes tend to run into. So I say we're stealing fitness. We're stealing fitness.
And that's what I want to tell everybody. I know we're at time, guys, but listen, seriously, if I can inspire you in one way today, it's like, think about micro versus macro. There are so many micro moments that we can stack in opportunity and benefit so it doesn't feel like work, because when people have to go somewhere for an extended period of time, it's one more thing in their busy full lives. And not that they don't want to do it or value it or appreciate it, but our time is a valuable currency for all of us, right? And so could there be a way that part of, right, that access to you and what they're getting from you, it is this, like, you really are the expert helping them to be better humans in their life. And so they have this positive association that, yeah, like, man, my trainer, my doctor, my coach, like, they told me to do this thing, because now all of a sudden they're putting their shoes on standing up, and their spouse or their parent or their friend is like, what are you doing? Oh, my coach, Brian, that is fascinating. Now they're going to try it. Right? Like, there's this beautiful kind of domino effect that we all influence and inspire one another. So please stretch yourself to realize, like, it doesn't have to just be one dimensional of how we show up and how we inspire and how we engage people. And those micro moments become easier than the big macro things a lot of times when people just need a little boost of hope and help. So listen, I know we are at time. If you guys had questions, please reach out to me. My team will get them to me. Sometimes my inbox has been flooded lately, but reach over. You'll definitely hear back within 24 hours at the latest if you've got a question. And check out our courses. It's so great to be a part of this MedFit network. They've always got such incredible content. So thank you all for showing up. Brian, thank you guys for having me. Amazing Tuesday to everybody.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. We appreciate you greatly, and thank you for everything that you do for us. And we will get you some questions maybe that are here typed, and if not, reach out to Dr. Petersen directly. And until the next one, thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you soon. Be well.